How do you hack reality? If you want to hack reality, you feel like reality is a program. In the 90s, what was this called? And this is still popular, to game reality. How do you game reality? How do you gamify reality? So if you're a very good gamer, you also know how to hack the game. It's not just about uncovering the secret levels, finding those secret entrances and secret rewards. You want to be able to hack the game itself. So what does that mean for our lives if we view reality as a program? First, this idea that reality is a program is a very ancient thing. It dates back to actually Abraham in the first book of Kabbalah, of Jewish mysticism, called the Book of Formation, Sefer Yetzirah. And there he discusses that reality is created by means of the 22 Hebrew letters. So first, if you want to know how to hack reality, you have to know the language of reality, which is the Hebrew language. And so then what is the program of reality? What is the blueprint of creation? So we think of the Bible as a book that you can go on the shelf. And from time to time, you open it, you dust it off, and you open it. It's also a book, but it's also reality. And so when we learn the Bible, we're learning about reality. But throughout Jewish history, you have very many great hackers. What do you call hackers? Miracle workers. But not only that, it's not someone who's breaking the laws of nature. Actually, as we learn from Abraham, that God is giving him this ability. Where do we learn that? It says that Abraham walked before God. Of Noah, it says that Noah walked together with God. Like he was always seeking God's approval for every step of the way. But now, in our times, this is something relevant to everyone. We all need to emulate Abraham. Again, Abraham walked before God. What does it mean to walk before God? It means that we, through our service of God, we decide on something and then God follows along. And this is something that he does for the righteous. Someone who's a righteous soul, that God follows along and says, you're right. It says that a righteous person says something, and God says, good, I agree with that. So let's talk about a very great hacker. This was the Baal Shem Tov, the founder of the Hasidic movement. So if you want to know how to hack, first you have to know, as we mentioned, the language, the programming language. This is the Hebrew letters. And also to be able to play games. As I said, it's important to gamify reality, to play games. And a lot of these games are numbers games. So let's play a number game. So the name of the founder of the Hasidic movements, Israel Baal Shem. Israel Baal Shem means the master of the name, which is for a different topic. So Israel Baal Shem, the numerical value of those Hebrew letters, the Hebrew letters of that name, Israel Baal Shem, is equal to 1,000. Why is 1,000 important? If you want to know how to hack reality, hack the program of reality, this is God's program. First off, you have to know that. But to know, you have to know what 1,000 is. So one thing that 1,000 is that you could view the Aleph, the first letter of the Hebrew language, as either equaling 1 or as equaling 1,000. So why is that important? So what's 1,000? What's Aleph? Aleph is that to view all of reality as the oneness of God, one. And when you view reality as all together with the oneness of God, so that brings out the wondrous aspect of reality, the miraculous aspect of reality. So that's the first thing to keep in mind. That even though we see many different things, there's a lot of grass around me, a lot of blades of grass, and trees, and all these lots of things. But there's only one God. And when we have that mindset, then we can begin to see the wonders of creation. The second lesson is that what's 1,000? So 1,000 can be seen as the lights, the points of light, the 1,000 points of light that Moses merited through delivering the Bible to us at Mount Sinai. That his face shone. He emanated. He shone with 1,000 points of light. And so what does that mean for us? So it all sounds very nice. 1,000 points of lights, very luminous. But what does that mean for us? Is that through our study of the Bible, and it should be in a selfless way, that we can merit to this 1,000 points of light. This is the heritage, that the gift that was given to Moses through bringing the Bible, but the Bible is for all of us. And all that is needed to do is to open it with a selfless mindset and to start seeing how all of creation is a manifestation of these words. And the way to do this is something called divine providence. To see how everything is being orchestrated by God and how everything is meaningful. For instance, when the Lubavitcher Rebbe was a 9-year-old boy, he was in front of the Black Sea and he saw that a boy was drowning. So he jumped in and rescued and saved the boy. What was his explanation? Is that he learned from the Baal Shem Tov, from the founder of the Chassidic movements, that if you see something, you should do something. This can be very overwhelming. What does it mean? That everything you see in reality is something to act on? So we have to qualify. It also has to be something that you feel like this is your specific mission and purpose in life. Like this is part of your mission and purpose in life. For the Lubavitcher Rebbe, this was his mission and purpose to help people to the point of self-sacrifice his entire life. But for us, we need to see in our lives what that means. And we have to be very careful because we don't want to get overwhelmed. It has to be something that is attainable. There's a story of 4 sages that entered into this mystical experience, not through drugs, God forbid, but through Kabbalistic intentions. They entered what's called this mystical orchard called the Pardes. And in this experience, you start seeing the oneness of all of reality, but it can be very overwhelming. And indeed it was. So one of the 4 sages passed. It was too much for his soul, and his soul left his body. Another one of the sages became crazy, just was too much. This is like a person who has too much ego. They feel themselves. So when you start feeling like the radio is talking to you and everything's talking to you, the world is talking to you, this bird is talking to you, everything is it's like it's too much. becomes too much, too hot, too much to handle, and so sensory overload, and so he became crazy. There's another one, one of the four sages. He became a heretic. He said, if everything is so meaningful, so purposeful, if God is orchestrating every minute detail through all of creation, like the Baal Shem Tov teaches, that even a blade of grass, the growing of a blade of grass has a specific divine intent, telling that blade of grass to grow, grow, grow. So if that's the case, then he couldn't make sense of the evil in the world, and so he became a heretic. But one sage, it says, entered in peace and left in peace. And this was the famous Tanaic sage, Rabbi Akiva. And of Rabbi Akiva, what do we learn? The greatest principle of the entire Bible is to love your fellow as yourself. He said this is the great principle of the entire Bible. If you study Bible and you don't leave with this, then you haven't. Then your Bible study has gone for naught. This is the purpose of all study, is to be there for another person, like the Lubavitcher Rebbe, jumping in to save someone else, to help someone else. This is like to be a superhero for someone else. And so what did he try to do? So first we have to understand, what was the purpose of this mystical thing? To lessen the pain and the anguish of what's called exile. We see a lot of bad things in the world, a lot of hard things, a lot of difficult things. And so Rabbi Akiva was trying to not attack evil head on, the evil in the world head on, but to try to take the goodness of his soul, the caring for his soul, and to shine that into the furthest extremes of reality. He wasn't attacking evil. He was shining good, the light and goodness of his soul. And in so doing, he entered in peace and he left in peace. He entered this deeply mystical experience, which, again, 4 entered, but only 1 exited in peace. For one of the sages, his soul, it was too much, his soul left his body. For another one of the sages, too much, to see the oneness of all of creation, to really get that, was too sensory overload, and he went crazy. And for the other sage, you can't attack evil head on. It's just not going to work. He was trying to reconcile evil. Because once you see that everything is purposeful, everything's orchestrated, so then you have the obvious question, but what about evil? And if you try to answer, why did October 7th happen? Why did the Holocaust happen? You can't have any answers. But if you feel like that's some lack on God's, you're projecting. You're saying that God is lacking something, and so then you'll turn into become a heretic. But what did Rabbi Akiva say is that no, you have free will. And if you have free will, you can do good and you can do the opposite. I'm going to focus on the good. And this was what many people consider the lesson of the Lubavitcher Rebbe, is to think good. Because that, like Rabbi Akiva, as we learn, to think good, that has an effect on all of reality. So if we view reality as a program, we also view our thoughts as deeply meaningful and deeply powerful, because it reverberates throughout all the reality, our thoughts. There's an expression from the sages, from the Jewish sages, machshava moelet, that our thoughts create reality. How more beautiful is that than to if you want to know how to hack reality, you have to have, first of all, good thoughts, and secondly, to be selfless, like Rabbi Kiva, like the Lubavitcher Rebbe. You put yourself in a situation, which is a very difficult situation, but it's not for you. It's for the sake of the chance to benefit another person. And so back to the Baal Shem Tov, the founder of the Hasidic movement. As we said, his name, Israel Baal Shem, equals 1,000. These 1,000 points of light that was gifted to Moses in the merit of giving us the Bible at Mount Sinai. So of the Baal Shem Tov, of this Israel Baal Shem, you have many miracle stories. Perhaps the most famous and theme of many of these stories takes place in a wagon. That he sets off on these adventures. Right? If you have a good heroic story, you need adventures. You need journeys and adventures. So he sets off together with his students many times in a wagon, in a horse-drawn wagon. He sets off to faraway lands. There's only one thing. There's many things, but there's one thing that everyone knows that has heard of these stories, is that it could be that this lesson in our service of God that he's attempting to teach his students, or this person that's in need, it's in need of saving. Let's say a person is in need of saving. Could be that this person is thousands of miles away, but you have to get to this person. So how do you get to this person? So what happens? So they get into this horse-drawn wagon, and he tells Alexei, the wagon driver, this is now we tell Alexa to do things. Alexa, do this, do that. Now before Alexa, there was Alexei. So this wagon driver Alexei, he tells Baal Shem Tov tells Alexei, turn around and let the horses take us. And so Alexei falls asleep. The wagon driver falls asleep, and he lets go of the reins, and the horses take them, and they find themselves like thousands of miles or whatever it is in a distant place, in a faraway land, and it could be that it was just an instant past. So what's this called? In science fiction, you have a warp drive. You warp space. You warp space and time, space-time continuum. In Hebrew, this is called kafitzas haderech, that you are jumping. You're jumping along your way. But it's not for the sake of doing a miracle. You're not equipping your wagon with some type of a spiritual warp drive engine. No, you're just your focus is on this lesson to be learned from this journey. The person in need of helping, in need of saving. So if you want to know how to hack reality, so again, we have to first go back to Abraham. First know that reality is created by means of the Hebrew letters. To learn the language of creation, first of all, ideally to learn in the language of creation, which is Hebrew, and to learn the blueprint of creation, which is the Bible, and to see how there is something called divine providence. that there is, just like every blade of grass, there's an angel that says, grow, grow. So too, to know that we're here in this world, like Rabbi Akiva taught, in order to be there to help other people. And this is also to learn this from the Baal Shem Tov. What's the greatest principle of the Bible? To love your fellow as yourself. And this was practiced in this great leaping, this great miracle in this horse-drawn wagon in these Baal Shem Tov stories. Loving your fellow as yourself, even if it means traveling thousands of miles. It's for the sake of not the miracle, not some spiritual warp drive, but for the sake of someone's in need. So, okay, what's the difference? Whether it's thousands of miles away or not, I need to help this person. That's also what it's called walking before God, that we learn from Abraham. On the Jewish holiday of Sukkot, where we go into it's called the Festival of Booths. So we have visitors that greet us on this festival. It's called the Ushpizin. These guests that come to our sukkah. So on the first night, we're first visited by Abraham, and then the other patriarchs and other shepherds of Israel. It's called the shepherds of Israel, the 7 shepherds of Israel. But there's also the Hasidic visitors. And so on the first night, we're also first visited by the Baal Shem Tov, the founder of the Hasidic movement. So there's a very great relationship between Abraham and the Baal Shem Tov. And if we can say in one word, is that word is faith. They're both instilling faith in our everyday, daily lives. So when we look around us and we see, well, if the world is it's so that the world is orchestrated, that everything is purposeful, everything is meaningful. So what's the lesson here? What did Rabbi Akiva learn? So as not to become overwhelmed, to become a heretic, or for, God forbid, our soul to leave us. What did he learn? Is that it's not about the miracles. It's not about making sense of everything around us. It's only about attuning ourselves to those situations where we stand to help another person. So it's not about learning the language of the birds or seeing how everything around us is being orchestrated at that very moment. The fact that I said learning the language of the birds, and birds just happen to right then fly around me. That's just distractions. It's on some level, all of that is true. Everything is purposeful throughout all of creation. Everything is enchanted. Yes, we're living in this Disney magical world. It's true. But you have to reach the midpoint of that. The point of all of that is selflessness, pure dedication to be willing to be there completely to help another person. And if that's not the case, then the expression is you leave the miracles keep rolling on the floor like marbles. You don't pick them up. That's hacking reality. That's hacking the program of reality. But it's doing so with the full blessing of God. Because God wants us to emulate this path of Abraham, which is walking before God.